These are uh, pieces about automobile racing, particularly about the Speedway. Although the first one isn't, it is called The Smell of Castor Oil. There is a smell that conjures memories for me. It is unique and perhaps unpleasant for those not used to it and not aware of the connections it can bring to one who knew it as a kid. It is the smell of burnt castor oil. In the 40s, 50s, and 60s, it was always mixed with alcohol to make high octane fuel for race cars. You could be a mile from the track, any track, and before you even heard the guttural sound of the Offenhauser engines, you could get that smell. It was pungent and sweet, like brown sugar and oatmeal, only better. It was high octane and only used in race cars. And race cars don't have fenders and doors. The 16th Street Speedway and the Speedrome here in town were where its clouds lingered, but occasionally it would drift with the breeze. I lived on Good Avenue in Irvington. It was about a mile and a half from the Speedrome. And one night, sitting on my front porch, before I could actually hear the cars, I smelled that racing smell. I know this is not possible, but it happened, at least in my memory, 54 years later. I woke up my son Robbie. We said goodbye to his mother and got in the car and went over. As we approached, we could see the track lights, but more we could smell the midgets at full speed. Leroy Warner won, but not that, nor anything about it lingers, but the smell. This next one is called Ticket Sales at the Speedway. I've lost a good deal of my memory, so I can't do it now, but there was a time when I knew most every statistic about the Speedway. I even knew crew members' names and even one of their backgrounds. I knew all the drivers, I knew their ages, driving experience, family members, likes and dislikes. It was a pure addiction, an addiction to the month of May. In the days of my youth, I read everything I could about racing and bugged everyone about it, much to my mother's chagrin. She wasn't interested herself, but knew it was dangerous, and she didn't want to think of her son in a race car at the Speedway, my childhood ambition. It was extremely dangerous in those days. Of 33 starters of the 1954 race, 17 died racing. On April 15th, all the entries were in, and I started building my anticipation for opening day, always on May 1st. I took the bus to the track, sometimes skipping school to do so, paid my 50 cents admission, and walked on in. In those days, only Grandstand F in the first turn was open. There was never more than 20 or 30 spectators, and sometimes you could go all day till closing at 6 p.m. with only 6 or 7 cars making an appearance. This addiction lasted until the 1990s, but one day stands out in shocking sorrow. It was 1961. By this time I was a ticket seller. My station was the gate in front of the tunnel that goes under Grandstand G in the south turn. About 2 p.m., two guys pulled up in a Buick, the pace car that year. When I saw who was driving, I motioned them on in. It was three-time national champion, Tony Bettenhausen. He slowed and I asked him, "You going to crack that 150 today?" It was kind of a barrier to the 1-minute lap. "I'm sure going to try," he replied. About 2 hours later, ticket sales had dwindled, and we ticket sellers were just standing around when a guy running up with the news from the track. Tony had been in a wreck at the end of the main straightaway. As it turns out, he died instantly. The Speedway was never the same for me after that. people actually do die. This is one called Race Fan. Johnny Parsons was national champion in 1949 and 1950, and he won the 500 in 1950, although it was a shortened race, shortened by rain to 345 miles. He was dapper, good-looking, versatile, and a demon of speed. He raced you in anything. He was especially good on the dirt. He held, they held races at old fairgrounds dirt tracks, and it was essentially a long but graceful slide for 100 miles, sometimes 200. They would get up to 130 at the end of the straights, then go sideways around the turn. There's nothing like it. Drivers had essentially no safety equipment except a flimsy helmet and a lap belt. Only about half of them lived to retirement. I saw the 500 the year Johnny won. Dad had finagled 2 tickets, and my friend Joe and I went. What a great day of speed and spectacle. I'll never forget it. I was 12, and at least for that day on my own. When it started to rain, they slowed and eventually stopped the race, declaring Parsons the winner. When he came to Victory Lane, took a swig of the milk and kissed the actress, it was Linda Darnell. He started apologizing for the race being shortened. I'm not sure who would have won if it had gone all the way. He was glad to win, but disappointed at the same time. Here's my fan letter to him. Dear Johnny, you are the greatest driver of all time. If it hadn't rained, you still would have won. Bill Holland and those other guys would have never caught you. I saw you down in Salem last year, and even after you spun out, you still won. I guess a boy should always be careful, but not in a race car. You just brought it on around and passed them all. That was the neatest thing I ever saw. Next year I would like to meet you. Ha ha, fat chance. When I get older, I want to be a race driver too. When you are old and I am young, maybe we could race each other. I can ride my bike real fast, but it ain't like a race car. Maybe someday. Your friend and fan, Jimmy Trulock. This next one is called Speedway Ticket Taker. I don't remember the dates anymore, just the details. I was a ticket taker at the Speedway in 1960 at the South Gate, and about 10 a.m. Lindsey Hopkins and his driver Bettenhausen came through. I looked in the car and asked Tony, "You going to crack that 1 minute lap today?" "I'm going to try," answered Tony. "We'll see." Actually, the next day he did. It had never been done, and he was the first, actually the only one that year. Fast forward a year to May '61. I'm waiting in line at the same gate, inching forward a car length at a time. I see a kind of commotion going on about 100 yards in front of me, and all the cars are turning around, not allowed to enter. A Speedway guard was walking by, and I asked him, "What's up? Why are you guys not letting people through the gate?" "Haven't you heard?" he said, and kept on walking. "No, I haven't." I turned on the radio, WFBM, the Speedway channel, and heard Sid Collins say the steering gear had broken. Then a long silence, and he turned the story over. Tony Bettenhausen was killed instantly in the first turn, testing Paul Russo's car. They had closed the track for the day. That's why they were turning people around. I turned around too, stunned and in sorrow. The best dirt track driver of all time had been killed. He was my favorite and I think a kind of martyr. He died helping a friend. That's the way racing was in those days. And 2 or 3 would die every year. Jim Rathman won the race in 1960, but for once I didn't care. The Tenley Park Express had gone, and it would never be the same. This is entitled 500 Stats. I am boasted and made to feel secure by facts and statistics. Sometimes it will come out in my writing. I need to know what time it is, not just here, but in Nova Scotia or Yokohama. I look at my watch countless times a day. I carry a step counter. I weigh myself morning and night, clothes on, clothes off. I measure recipes carefully. I know birthdays, and on and on. In this regard, I was a nut on sports statistics and particularly auto racing, and most particularly the 500. I had all the car books, every one, even the one with when the yearbook publisher's shop burnt down. I knew it all, not just winners who came in, but who came in seventh. What was the car color? The mechanic's name and hometown, the driver's wife's name, how many pit stops, the length of pit stops, on and on. When racing became followed the leader parade as it has in the last decades, I lost interest and ultimately at the fairgrounds racing memorabilia show, a guy made me an offer for my collection. Really a good offer, so what the hell? I took it. I still have some stuff, but not much, and you always nowadays can get stats online. But I found what I miss is the collecting, and even more, just the knowledge of the books being there. I have that feeling about books generally. I don't actually have to read and reread to get the good from them. Just to know that they're there is soothing. So this guy asked me what was the closest 500-mile race. I mean, before they decided to make them all artificially close. It was the 1937 race. Wilbur Shaw won by 3.1 seconds. I do remember that. But who came in second and third? I can't remember. I wish I had those books back. I can't even remember what I did with the $300 I got for them.